Hello and welcome back. sleepywhatsit here, and I have another miniatures video for you. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Green Stuff World's textured rolling pins. We're going to be doing a review of the actual product and demonstrating on how to use it. This product is similar to Green Stuff World's Dungeon Plunger cutter things and Happy Sapaku's texture mats, both of which I've previously done videos for, which I will link in the description below, and hopefully somewhere around here little cards have come up, so if you want to click through and see those ones. So for the purposes of reviewing for this video, I kind of want to compare some of the textures like what I've done in my other videos, so I didn't get anything super weird and exotic. I got a plain pin here, which is just for more of a utility, rolling things flat. I have a small cobblestone, which is more of a dungeon interior type tile, and I have a flagstone, which is more of a city tile. I also, as part of this order, and I'm going to be using this video, I got these round cutters from Green Stuff World, which I think are actually pretty nice. They're kind of like a round cookie cutter. They're sized to a variety of miniature tops and bottom sizes, and they're all labeled, and they're really nice for cutting things down to size. But those are cool, regardless of say here. So the first pin we have here is just the plain one, which is a utility one, just for flattening things. But this is kind of the blank that I assume they make all of their other ones out of. So we have here the cobblestone one. It's a cobblestone texture that runs all the way around. You roll over. It works relatively well for that. And then we have the flagstone one, which is a similar idea. I'm pretty sure they CNC'd these out as opposed to cast, just because you can see there's tool marks along there. But we'll get into that a bit later. So the first thing I attempted to do here was just roll out on some parchment paper and squish the pattern in there, and I was going to just drop that onto the base itself. And as you can see here, because the parchment paper is not sticky, or something it can stick to, it just gets pulled up with that. Yeah, so that didn't work out well, and this just kind of made a mess. So don't do that. Make sure that whatever you're, that you put the green stuff onto something it will adhere to, otherwise it will just adhere to your rolling pin. So the actual way I went about making these is I got the green stuff out here, flattened it out, and got it smooth. I folded over the paper and used the rolling pin to flatten it out. And once we have it nice and flattened out in an appropriate size, used one of the cutting circle cutters I had here to cut out the actual shape. And just going to get the excess away here. And the idea here is that this is actually a 30 mil top that's going to be going on to a 32 mil base because of the slight camber. But yeah, this just peels off and we'll just pop that on the top there, so you have approximately the right amount of material. So now we have two 32 mil bases with green stuff on it that's approximately the right thickness. Because we want to make sure this really sticks, we're going to take the flat rolling pin and just squish it down a little bit just to make sure it's really adhering to the surface of the base. Well, because when I didn't do this originally, it started pulling up again. And once we have that, we just take our rolling pin and smoothly and evenly putting pressure across, roll it across the surface of our base and get the texture that we want. So it is as simple as that. Make sure you have some water on the green stuff so it doesn't stick, and let that dry for 24 hours. So you can see here we have what the cobblestone looks like. So this is after drying for 24 hours. It looks like a nice cobblestone texture. My only real complaint is that you can see those tooling marks, which I'll get into a little bit later, because that actually becomes kind of a significant issue. And here's what the flagstone looked like. So once this dries out, just going to prime it. I'm using Reaper Gray Primer, just a brush-on primer. You could spray this. You could use whatever your favorite primer is. There's nothing particularly special about this. It was mostly the primer that I had at hand. So just needing to prime the entire base, just to make sure that our paint is going to adhere to it. And then I based out using Shadowed Stone by Reaper, I think, which is a darker stone color. I have a number of videos discussing like how to make stone bases and things like that you can go look at if you want some more details and like how to really finesse it. This is kind of a quick and dirty paint job just to kind of show off what the actual painted up version of these bases look like, because especially that I just wanted to see how the details show up. So after laying down the base layer, put a wash on it to darken the edges and like grooves and such. Unfortunately, I didn't mix my wash completely correctly, so it was a little bit thick. So this is definitely much more like something akin to a glaze as opposed to a true wash, because it's not really thin enough. It's not flowing into the grooves as much. It just kind of tinted everything dark. It worked. As I said, I'm not putting these bases on any specific models, so I would probably repaint these before using them. So we've let that wash layer dry, everything's darkened, and now we're going to dry brush things up. I believe I used stone gray from Reaper for the first layer here, and the second layer will be done with weathered stone. Very basic, straight ahead. Not the most exciting base. But the dry brushing here especially shows one of my major complaints about these bases. That tooling mark thing I was commenting about before, as I said, I believe how these are manufactured is they have a cylinder of acrylic and they're using a CNC or something like that, like a rotary tool, automatic rotary tool, and it is passing over and cutting out the shape for the stamp. I'm not sure if they then cast that but at its core, that is what has been done. And what has happened is the tool head, as it travels back and forth, leaves little lines in the material. And as we dry brush here, which will become very apparent once we start doing the brighter highlights here, those little groove lines don't go away. So they've actually been transferred into the green stuff. So as opposed to having smooth stone that we're working with, we actually have stone with grooves in it. I originally thought I had too much paint and I was over dry brushing, though I went a little bit hard on these guys. But actually, when you look closely, that the problem is actually from that there's little grooves in the surface, and those, if we were doing wood, would be totally fine. But for stone especially, really don't work out well. And I think that's one of my biggest issues with this specific product. With that being said, I'm going to move on to showing you what the final product actually looks like just from this process, so you can kind of have a reference here. So you can see running from like left down, top left down to top right on the flagstone. You can see those little lines. Those are the tooling etching marks that I'm talking about, and those appear on both bases, and they are noticeable even to a layman or a non-expert or someone that doesn't paint. So that is my first issue with these bases, rolling pins. My second issue with them is they are relatively expensive, to be honest. They are on the orders of $30 Canadian once you take shipping and things like that into effect. And so you have to get a lot of bases out of these to really justify their cost. At $30, depending on what you're looking at basing, you can seriously consider buying like some pre-made bases from Games Workshop or Secret Weapon or MicroArt Studio. There's a number of manufacturers of these things. So there's a variety of much more detailed, elaborate bases that you can get for somewhat the similar price. My third kind of issue with these rolling pins comes down to the fact that they're rolling pins as opposed to something like a mat. It is hard to have even pressure across them and have the pin not wobble a little bit, and it also tends to peel things up with it because of that rotating motion. With the mats from Happy Seppuku, for example, which they no longer manufacture, unfortunately, you press them flat down and then you could bend the mat away so that you didn't pull up the material. So, yeah, it's really hard for me to recommend these because I don't think they work well. They have some manufacturing issues, and they're honestly expensive. If you're looking at doing more like textured bases, there's a number of manufacturers that produce silicone texture mats and things that are out there. I'd seriously consider looking at some of those. The Dungeon Plunger tile cutter things, which I've done a review of, they're a little bit better maybe, but they have some issues in themselves. But as I said, for the price point, you can honestly consider buying cast bases. If you want just a simple base that isn't just like black, you can start looking at putting texture paste and a little bit of detail work in there. And I think for the amount of effort you're going to be putting in, you'll get something that will look much better than this. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video informative. If you did, please give the video a like. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel. I put out miniatures videos weekly. I also stream on Twitch on the weekends, just doing painting, just kind of a chill thing. And if you want to follow me on social media, you can see all the projects I'm currently working on. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.